If you're even thinking about buying a home, you need to know that the entire rule book has basically been thrown out the window. What was always a kind of confusing process is going through a massive change, and you've got to understand it. So let's get into it and break down what this actually means for you.
For the longest time, the answer to this was, well, it wasn't as simple as you'd think. Believe it or not, historically, almost every agent in a real estate deal, even the one driving you around to look at places, technically worked for the seller. So let's get crystal clear on who is truly in your corner today.
So, the answer? It's having a dedicated buyer's agent. They are your expert guide. You really want to think of them less like a salesperson and more like your personal strategist for the crazy, sometimes tricky journey of buying a home. Their entire job is to look out for your best interests.
So what does exclusively actually mean? It means their loyalty, their entire focus is on you, the buyer. Period. I mean, this is a night and day difference from the old system of sub-agency, where your agent was basically a sub-agent working for the seller's agent. Yeah, you can see why that was a little problematic for buyers.
And we're talking about way more than just unlocking doors to houses. A really great buyer's agent is like your data analyst, your connection to lenders, your chief negotiator, and really the project manager for the whole deal. They're there to cut through all the noise and help you make smart, informed decisions.
So what's holding this whole relationship together? Well, it's a set of legal and ethical promises, and it's got a handy acronym, OLDCA. Your agent has to obey your instructions, be loyal to you, tell you all the important stuff, keep your info confidential, account for any money, and just generally be careful and competent. And let's be clear, these aren't just nice suggestions. They are legally binding promises your agent makes to you. All right, so you found an agent you click with, someone you trust. How do you lock it in and make it official and, legally binding? Well, that's where the formal agreement comes into play.
This agreement, it's not just another piece of paper to sign. It's literally an employment contract. You are officially hiring your broker to be on your team. And this is a big deal. Without a written agreement, in the eyes of the law, that broker is basically just a volunteer. You want them working for you, not just with you. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. This is a negotiation. You have a say here. You can negotiate how long the agreement lasts, what neighborhoods or towns it covers, and, this is a big one, how much they get paid. You also get to decide if you're okay with them being an intermediary, which means they can show you houses listed by their own company. This whole agreement puts you in the driver's seat.
And you've got options here. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So say you just want to see one specific house, or you're just dipping your toes in the water. The short form is probably perfect for that. It can even limit their duties to just showing you the property. But if you're like, okay, I'm serious, let's find my home, then you're going to want the long form. That's the one that covers the whole shebang.
Okay, let's talk about the big one. The question that has always been super confusing for pretty much everyone. And it's right at the center of all these new changes. Who actually pays your agent for all this work? Let's follow the money trail. So traditionally, here's how the money flowed. The seller would agree to pay their agent a commission. Let's just say 6% for this example. Then, as part of that deal, the seller's agent would offer to split that commission, usually half with whatever agent brought them a buyer. So get this, your agent is working for you, but their paycheck is technically coming out of the seller's pocket. You can see how that might get a little murky, right? But here's the golden rule, the one thing that has always been true, even if it wasn't shouted from the rooftops. All brokerage fees can be negotiated, always. Anytime a group of brokers tries to set a standard rate, that's called price fixing, and it's a big no-no under federal antitrust law. And that whole idea of negotiation, or, the lack of real negotiation, well, it led to a bombshell lawsuit that has just turned the entire real estate industry on its head. We're talking about the Sitzer-Burnett case. A jury in Missouri came back with a mind-blowing verdict, $1.8 billion. Basically, home sellers argued and won that the way commissions were advertised on the multiple listing service, or MLS, was a conspiracy to keep costs artificially high for everybody. And that verdict just kicked off a massive wave of change. So what's the single biggest change to come out of all this? It's simple. That field on the MLS where listing agents advertised how much they'd pay a buyer's agent, it's gone, vanished. Sellers can still offer to pay a buyer's agent fee, for sure, but they can't advertise it on the MLS anymore.
The whole point is to decouple the commissions, to break that automatic link and force a real honest-to-goodness negotiation. All right, so that's the backstory. But let's get down to brass tacks. What does all this mean for you, the person trying to buy a house, like right now? Okay, this is probably the biggest new rule you need to know. The days of casually calling up an agent to see a few houses are over. Under the new rules for realtors, you absolutely have to sign a buyer representation agreement before an agent can show you a property, period. This just makes sure everyone is on the same page about the services and the cost from day one. So how your agent gets paid is now way more out in the open. Yeah, the seller can still agree to pay your agent's fee. That's still on the table. But now it's crystal clear that you can also pay your agent directly. Or you can write it into your offer. Ask the seller for a credit to cover your agent's fee. The point is, you have options and you've got to talk about them up front. When you boil it all down, this whole industry earthquake is about one word: transparency. The days of just assuming how things work are done. The new normal requires a direct, upfront conversation and a written agreement between you and your agent about the value they bring and exactly how they're going to get paid for it. And that, of course, leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? This new world gives buyers more power to negotiate fees directly. But is that actually going to make homes more affordable in the long run, or is it just going to add one more complicated, high-stakes negotiation to what's already one of the most stressful things you can do? Honestly, we're all going to be watching to see how this plays out.